Back in the days, I used to be an indie film festival producer, but now I'm a migrant. At the time of filming, I was living in San Diego and working in a moving company to provide for my family. Of course, I've always wanted to get back in the game. After the border crisis was all over the news, I bought used Sony camera and was waiting for the right moment. Late December 2023, I was walking out of 7-Eleven when I saw the front page of the local newspaper. There was an emergency situation at Jacumba Hot Springs, where hundreds of migrants were living in the desert, waiting to be processed. That was an hour drive for me, and this is how it all started.
The media says the situation is getting worse every month. Is it true?
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, worse, better. Depends on whether you think it's bad or not. It's worse for me because more people are coming in every day. Yeah. We have about 1,000 people in the camps today.
What's your thoughts on the issue?
On what? On the issue? Well, look, this is what it's simple. The oligarchs who own our culture and country and politics and everything in it, for some reason that we can all surmise and discuss about, have decided they want this to happen, where these people are crossing the border. And until they decide they don't want it to happen anymore, it will continue. That's all there really is to it.
So it's not a bug. This is a feature.
Obviously, very much. I mean, to them, again, I can surmise why they want this to be the way that it is, but I'm not an oligarch and they're not telling me what they think.
But what's their bargain?
What's that?
Why that's profitable to them?
Well, I think that they definitely want highly trained and highly skilled labor force that can be, what could I say? A permanent underclass of trained people that will work for them for cheaper than they can get regular Americans to work for them.
Permanent underclass or slaves?
I don't know. Slavery is a harsh term, but yeah, something like that.
Oh, like the blue workers with the less hourly rates?
Oh, yeah. I mean, these people are not going to get working permits because they don't have working permits. That means they have to work illegally. Since they're working illegally, they will get paid significantly less than normal people will be paid.
But how that benefits the country?
It benefits the oligarchs. It does not benefit the country at all.
So do you see any solution for the problem?
Yeah, it's very simple. The solution is extremely simple. It's to, change the immigration laws in a meaningful way. This, because it's simple, doesn't mean that it'll happen or it's easy. It is a very simple solution. The solution to our problem right here is to allow asylum seekers to walk through standard ports of entry. If they did that, this would be over the next day.
No more illegal crossings.
If you give them a legal way to do it, as I say to every time, if you're going to let them in anyways, which they are, then why don't you let them in through standard border of entries that are all set up for it?
If you let any amount of people go through the port of entry, then I think the numbers will be higher each year.
No, they're higher each year now. They're letting the people in here now. You understand?
Okay.
What I'm saying is that they are letting the people in. They're just letting them in through this way. They could let them in through another way, but they're not doing that.
How come that instead of criticizing the government, you decided to do that humanitarian mission here?
Well, because the government is not doing it. If I don't feed these people, if we don't feed these people, then they won't get fed. If we don't give them water, they won't get water. That's simple.
So they will die out of thirst?
No, but they'd be extremely uncomfortable. They could die out of thirst now, yeah. That could.
Some people die.
Some people could. Yeah. No, not really. I think they all got it set up. You want to go to that camp that direction and meet them. Or I need everything, but we have it kind of covered in the green, and they don't need blankets at the place to the east of us. So I don't know where did they just come from? No. Oh, okay, yeah. If you want to go, you can meet my wife at the next camp, which is that way. Have you been there?
Your wife is helping
Oh yeah,
as well,
and my sons.
and your sons.
Yeah.
Is this the main activity for you right now?
At the moment, it's the only activity for me. I've been doing this every day, 10 hours a day, 7 days a week for the last 12 weeks.
So I'm gonna have to ask, what drives you?
I'm a Christian. That's it.
So the love for people.
Christians don't leave people babysitting in the dirt, as far as I'm concerned. Hello?
So if you have had the power, if you had,
No, Sam is here. I'm getting interviewed.
Oh, my bad. I'm sorry.
It's all right. I'm not worried. Don't worry. Now,
Okay, so did everybody look at you so cute on your little I love it.
I got a chance to sit down for the first time in a long time.
Cute. Yeah, it's adorable. Oh my gosh. Okay, did they already go out feeding? Because I have beans.
Oh, wait, hang on. Bring the beans in if you can. And we're going to use them tomorrow. They're going to be back here in like 5 minutes, and we're going to Willow if they want to come along and see it.
Yeah, they do.
It's a zoo.
It's a zoo?
There's like 400 people there plus.
I believe it. That's why I got more beans.
And there's more children than you can shake a stick at.
Okay, you sure you don't want me to drop them off anywhere?
But leave them here. Put them inside.
Okay, this is my friend Jeff I was telling you about.
Hey, Jeff.
Sam, he's getting interviewed on his couch.
Yeah. It's all right. I've had more than one lately, yeah.
Yeah, I told you you're famous.
Yeah, famous.
Okay, he wants us to stick the beans.
Well, how am I going to monetize it, huh?
do you have any website that people can donate? So
Actually, if people want to donate through a website, they can do it either through a GoFundMe, which is called Jacumba Migrant Camps, or they can do it through Al Otro Lado, which is a 501c NGO that can accept tax-free donations.
what's the situation right now in December 2023?
Oh well, it's complete breakdown of the system to deal with these people.
Do you have enough food, water to feed?
No,
No?
No.
And where do you get the food and the water?
people bring it, crowdsourcing, and I just don't have enough. The flow is too high.
And the government doesn't
No.
provide
Nothing, zero.
any message you want to say to the general public?
Not really. No message that I can really put across other than, where are you? Where's anybody to help with this situation? The general public? The general public. There's no such thing. There are only people. The public is a myth. There is only individuals.
Don't you have the feeling that basically in the big cities no one cares about whatever happens here across the border?
Well, they care about whatever is affecting them. People do that. I mean, whatever is in front of their face, they're going to care about that. I live here, so this affects me. If I live somewhere else, I probably would be doing something else.
When they face problems in their cities, like someone will lose their job because somebody agrees to get paid less and do the same job, that's when they start care.
Then they start to care. But the oligarchs that own the place, that's what they want. And nobody has the power to change that. They want cheaper labor. They're going to get it. How can you change that?
Through elections?
You think an American election has had a thing to do with change in this country in the last 60 years? Never. Never. And I speak from this as a political scientist. The oligarchs, the donor base that pays for our politicians to get elected, has completely controlled everything here for the last 60 years. And the idea that they don't is silly. The idea that you can elect somebody and they will change something that will do something that is different than the donors want is silly.
Your perspective is very sad. It feels like you can't change anything.
Well, not through politics.
But how? If not politics, then how?
Reality. Things change because things change. People can't control it. They think they can, but they can't. I gotta get going.
Sam was living with a group of volunteers to feed the migrants in the camp. That's where you should go if you really want to find out what's going on, he told me, getting into his pickup truck. I had no idea where those camps were and if it was safe to me to go there. Is the camp on US soil? That's the only thing that bothered me. Yep, but you should have papers, cause the way you look and your accent, CBP may think you just crossed the border. Even though I had papers, I jumped into my car and joined the volunteers convoy like I was one of them. In 5 minutes, we were at the camp, and that's what I saw there.
Look, there's Border Patrol and they're all huddling. Running up into the they're calling to their friends. See? All the kids, family, let's go, hurry. I don't know that they're not gonna go. This guy's like, I ain't going, so I'm not leaving. He knows. Yeah, they know. He's like, I'm not wasting my time. But with kids and the women, they're smart. I think it depends on how many buses and things that they've got.
Yeah. They take single men first. They can transport. There's 2 buses on the highway. That's 100 people. They're going to take single men. I don't see any vans up there for children and families. Not one.
Yeah.
Not one. And these babies stay out here all night long and they're gas sick.
Here and here. You follow me so far? Yep. Okay. Then from here, you get a tarp, a square tarp, and you drape it over. Like a pup tent, right? And then you put 4 rocks. Boom, 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 boom. Put as many blankets as you want, and you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 or 8 little tents. I thought, isn't that a genius idea? So one of these times I'm going to come and bring my big pole and my little thing that goes like this. And I said, and they're like, oh, that's going to be a lot of work. I'm like, I don't have to do any of it. They'll do it for me.
Hey, Gabrielle.
Bye. I don't have to do any of it. They'll do it all for me. That's the cool part.
They're amazing.
Like you just bring the pipes here and just tell them what to do, and they do it. That's pretty neat.
Doing this. You've been doing this.
March, since March.
But last year too.
Yeah. Oh well, no, this last March. Started in March when it was hot. It was really hot in the summertime. We started in March when it was hot, and now it stopped for a little bit, a month or two, and now it's back. Yeah, see, they're coming back to their places because they didn't take them. Yeah. So right now we're just picking up trash, like trying to stuff that doesn't burn. Anything that burns, I put it in the piles. Like, see, they're collecting stuff there to burn tonight. So there's coloring books. I'm like, that's paper, it'll burn. Throw in there. So yeah.
So is it getting worse since March? Like more people?
Oh yeah, way worse. So in March it was bad, but I think it was bad because we didn't know what to expect, or we had never seen this before. So a couple hundred people was bad to us. Now we're almost at 1,000. It's like, okay, yeah, this is getting quite to that level. We got used to 200-300. That was kind of like, okay, you can handle that. Well, now that it's almost up to 1,000, it's like that's a little beyond our capacity. I think we're all feeling the crunch too, especially when it starts snowing and the wind. The wind is really killer out here. The wind gets very, very windy and it'll destroy all these tents easily.
So when something's gonna change?
I think so. From what I heard, the only thing that's ever going to change is if they actually make a policy or a law that prevents this. But even still, a policy or law is not going to stop somebody from digging under the fence or going over or going around it. So even if you finish building the wall where it stops here and where it stops over there, people are still going to be coming over. They're either going to squeeze through, cut the bar, however. So that's not going to really stop them. So I don't know. I just know that these are my neighbors and these are people that are seeking safety. Majority of them, I've never felt scared or harmed in any way, and so I feel like the least I can do is to provide a little bit of food, and that's about as much as I can do. I'm not a politician, and I don't know how all that works, but what I can do is if everybody in this world did a little bit of what they could do, we'd all make the world work. But it's when we all decide that we have different agendas that doesn't work. So I think that's why we've got so many amazing people. I've met some awesome people throughout here from this whole experience. So it's been pretty fun. A bracelet? Yeah, see, they're not doing that anymore. And I feel bad for the Border Patrol. It's not their individual fault. It's the big cheese, It's the big boss. It's not their little. It's not the employees. It's the boss. And they're just like the middleman. I always look back. It's not their. Some of them are nice. Others not. Look.
After I've talked with volunteers at Jacumba, I needed a different perspective. I've reached some Border Patrol and USAS officers, but unfortunately they're not allowed to comment publicly. So I've tried to interview an attorney, and I wrote to probably the most popular Russian-speaking attorney, Alex Navalny. To my surprise, despite being very busy, he got back to me the next day. We decided to meet in LA after his next court date.
Алекс, мы сейчас едем в заседание суда. Как прошел суд ваш?
Извини, пожалуйста, еще раз по-английски, да?
Если можно.
Да, конечно. This was an individual hearing. I represented a family from Russia. It was one of those cases when people experienced political persecution. And the trial went well. We spent about 2.5 hours, maybe. Everything was great. It was a well-documented case, and we prepared very well because actually this case was continued once, so we did 2 preparations. So we won. Everything is okay.
Какой по счету это суд у вас в этом году?
This year, this was number 5 this year. Last year I did 68 trials, and this year this number 5. Yeah, so it's going to be much busier this time because it's going to be in January, February, and March. I'm going to have about 45 trials.
And you won all of them?
Last year, 68, yes. We won 68 trials. I won all of them. Yeah, we did real well.
And when did you start your practice?
I started practicing in 2009. I was always in San Francisco. When I started, I worked at the large, back in the days, I worked in a large firm. We did civil litigation. So when I started, I did civil litigation. I represented clients who were wrongfully terminated from their work. But then I switched to immigration law. And at this point, I'm practically doing only immigration law.
How your practice changed during these years, if there are any changes?
Well, the practice, and trust me, I speak on behalf of many lawyers who do immigration law.
Okay.
Especially lawyers who have clients from Russia. Practice changed because of the problems in Russia. So ever since basically repressions started getting worse and worse, political repressions by the President Putin. So ever since we started ever since the repressions occurred, and Alexei Navalny, when he was imprisoned, this was basically at some point this triggered huge wave of people leaving the country. So basically since 2021, for all of us, our practice changed because we started receiving so many people who basically flee their countries because they're persecuted by the government. When I represented people in their request for political asylum, which is what I do, in 2009 it was sort of it was very different than right now, because in 2009, even though the U.S.-Mexican border of course existed, and of course people were crossing the border, back then in 2009, 2010, there was no flow of people from Russia, pretty much from the whole post-Soviet space, right, territory. So basically, the way practice changes, when I started this practice doing immigration law, mostly I represented people who were going to the embassy. They were receiving U.S. visas, and comfortably they were crossing the ocean, getting into the United States, and then they would come to my office, and we would apply for asylum, right? But then, I would say, at least for me, try to think. It was probably 2000.
Since the embassies were closed in Russia, right?
Even before that, it was probably back in 2005, 2015, this is when this whole new movement of people crossing the U.S. Mexico border started happening, and this is when we started picking up cases of Russians or people from Belarus or people from Kazakhstan or Kyrgyzstan who were crossing the border. Because before then, pretty much general knowledge was that if somebody was crossing the border, it was people from South America, because it always will be, people from South America, they create, huge caravans and they come over here. It will never change, right? But then, this is when in 2000, I think it was around 2014, 15, when I started picking up different type of business when people were crossing the border and then they were placed in deportation proceedings, and we were dealing with their cases in immigration courts.
Is there any difference between post-Soviet immigrants which apply for asylum and the so-called caravans from South America, case-wise?
Yeah. It's a huge difference, and like I said in many interviews prior to this one, the main reason why the U.S. government is so much preoccupied today with the problem at the border, right? Because they're unable to control it. They don't know what to do with this situation, right? And we see on the political arena how things are done pretty roughly. Because on one hand, President Biden, being a Democrat, right, he cannot really put a stop to this immigration, right? Mm-hmm. Whereas we see the Republicans who they play completely different cards, and they say that the U.S. needs to close. They're more preoccupied for the welfare of their citizens, and they're in a sense they're very popular with their anti-immigrant policies, right? So, but to answer your question, yes, because in most cases, and I would dare to say that before the war began, in most cases, when people cross the border from the post-Soviet countries, these people have valid claims. They have viable claims, meaning that they truly had reasons to run. When the war began, especially when the mobilization started taking place, I have seen, just like all of us, we have seen quite a wave of people, male individuals from the Russian Federation, mm-hmm. who were crossing the border, and frequently enough, we saw that they don't have any other reasons, but I just don't want to go to the war. I run from the mobilization. I don't want to be part of this war. And yet, it's still these people have much better claims than people from South America. I mean, don't get me wrong. Of course, there's a lot of people in South America who have valid claims. Of course, people, social groups, LGBT, they have strong claims, right? But overall, a large percent of people who come from South America, they're basically just running from poverty because they're poor and they're trying to get to the United States to start making their living. Just like same situation with Mexico, right? People who live in Mexico, I mean, it's no secret. A lot of them, they can live in Mexico and they just cross the border illegally, go to the United States, make some money, and then either go back and bring that money, or sometimes they just send the money to their relatives who live in Mexico, and they continue illegally residing in the United States. I mean, that's the story. That's unfortunately, it's been like this for many years, and it will continue being like this. I'm not saying that everybody who comes from Russia or from Kazakhstan or Belarus, people who are really fleeing from persecution. Sometimes people might have nothing, or sometimes people might have something, and they might think that they might not even be afraid to stay in their country, but they choose to use that opportunity. And sometimes, even when I consult people, I see from time to time individuals who basically, pretty objectively understand their chances are pretty low to receive some status in the United States. They understand it, and just like you said, and just like it happens with South American countries, they just say that I understand. If I have to go, I guess I'll have to go. But for time being, they're they're here and they just make their living.
How's that fair if people with real cases have to sometimes wait to be processed in a proper way, right? When the border, well, it's not a big secret, is open now for anyone who can cross the wall, and came here illegally. So with such an open border, when everyone can get seen and then be released, what kind of message is that for people who want to do it legally through the application, and they have to wait, months?
Right. No, I mean the system is in a sense system is collapsing. I know that the U.S. government is doing its best to really organize it. I mean, I understand that it's not easy because it's a serious job. It's very difficult to to really control and organize it, because last time I read a report, basically the report stated that there was a peak in crossing the border at some point. I think it was in December for some reason, and 10,000 people per day were crossing the border throughout the United States. So to answer your question, yes, it's very difficult, but that is why the U.S. government, ever since Donald Trump was in power, he started implementing policies. At least they tried implementing policies that, believe it or not, today administration is actually returning to those policies and trying to implement them. Meaning that, for example, understanding that this huge flow, understanding that these people, unless some additional measures will be implemented at the border, that means these people are going to be crossing the border, and then they're going to be in immigration courts, right?
Yes.
And just like you properly stated, immigration courts are they're bleeding. Okay, even here in Los Angeles, I know that some of the judges, when they schedule their hearings, some of the judges scheduled for a year of 2028. I guess, so you can imagine how busy they are, right? So yeah, so when Donald Trump was in power, he tried to implement this policy when he offered that right at the border they were going to basically have some accommodations for officers, and the same authority as immigration judges were supposed to be given to them. And basically what his idea was that these officers will be quickly screening people, right, to make sure that these people have cases, right, before they get into the court system. And then all of a sudden, they're gonna create this flow in the court system, but having nothing as in a sense of their case, right? And so Donald Trump did this when he said that we're going to put people at the border. These people are going to screen them, and then even if after this individual was screened and we see that he or she has a claim, then these we will implement some sort of like expedited proceedings, in plain language, like they wanted to do like quick hearings, right, in order to stop this flow of immigrants into court system. Unfortunately, up until today, nothing happened. Nothing in stone. Nothing has been finalized. I know that again, we when President Biden was already in power, we monitor their policies. We monitor their efforts to improve immigration policies, and they also discuss the same thing. But so far everything is just in this limbo. Nothing is really happening. Ever since Russia attacked Ukraine, one of the things that the Russian government did, they released a lot of criminals from prisons because they needed to send these folks to the war. But we know that a lot of these people, and unfortunately we see these reports. I saw several reports which were, did not surprise me, that featured several individuals like this who went to the war, returned, and they committed crimes. They committed like serious crimes back home, killing people because they were the murderers. So the U.S. government, I think, promptly reacted to this, if that's the cause, because we know that ever since the application named the CBP-1 was implemented at the border, right? the way it worked is once you were in Mexico, you were registering yourself at, using this application, and you were crossing the border with the use of this application. But several months ago, serious changes occurred, and anybody who was crossing the border with, having a Russian passport, people were detained. They were not released. They were detained, and not only they were detained at the border, but then they were processed and they were placed in different detention centers. And for quite some time, we as immigration lawyers were scratching our heads, trying to figure out what was happening and why the government was basically taking such harsh remedies. Actually, my initial concern was that maybe the U.S. government was doing this because they were so unhappy and they were so against the war, right? That the Russian government started this war with Ukraine. And my initial thought was that, but you guys are punishing people who actually are running away from the war, right? You're punishing people who speak against this totalitarian regime, right? Or this tyranny of the President Putin. But like I said, we recently had this information from the detention centers, and there was no secret. The officer actually explained it to some of the people who were in detention. Mm-hmm. And they basically said that we sent out the requests to Russia. Okay. And these requests came back, and as soon as they confirmed that these people are, as soon as they cleared these individuals, mm-hmm. The U.S. government doesn't have any problems releasing them.
Theoretically speaking, can they clear potential spy? Russia, I mean.
I'm sorry, can they what?
So when U.S. Border Protection sends the request to Russia and the request is clear, then the alien is released, right?
Right.
So if they send a spy, because it's really probably easy to get in through border than through the classic espionage through the embassy. So if they send a spy and then they clear it,
right? Yeah,
is it possible?
I would assume so. I don't see why not. I'm sure that it's very possible, but this, I guess, this will be left for the intelligence services of the United States to. I'm sure they're doing their work. They have their files, and they do. I'm sure they do their homework, try to locate these folks.
I saw a lot of YouTube videos when you do a volunteer job at the border when the war started, and then you have a lot of maybe an hour or hour and a half Q&A sessions. So basically you do a lot of volunteer work. What drives you?
It's a type of work that you either love it and you care about people, or you don't, because I don't think you can be I don't think you can be anywhere in the middle, because you really have to have passion about this work, and it gives me passion. I love doing what I do because I understand that it's we as lawyers, we cannot, we don't necessarily show emotions, but trust me, any trial I do, when I see people, when we come out from the courthouse and we know that we won the case, it's trust me, it's very very, very nice to see the faces of people that you helped. So yeah, I mean, I like understanding that I played a role in someone's life, and not just providing any type of, all kinds of type of assistance, but this particular type of assistance, because I know that I changed someone's life. Because somebody who was afraid to go back, somebody who was just sitting in a courtroom testifying, saying that I cannot go back. I'm afraid to go back. I know that I'm going to be jailed, or I know I'm going to be beaten, or I'm going to be killed. And yeah, and then when you make a difference with someone, it's certainly a very nice feeling.
In the beginning of the interview, you spoke about Navalny and how his activity in Russia changed the immigration, the amount of immigrants here. And I have to ask, speaking of Navalny, do you feel sad that he finally returned to Russia?
Do I feel sad that he returned to Russia?
He decided to return, and he could live a decent life here and still be a leader and do some video blogging and be popular, but alive and in good health, obviously.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean,
Do you understand him?
to understand him, um, I don't know whether I would be able to do something like this. That's why he's Navalny. I mean, we all know that he knew when he was going, he knew that he will be arrested, but that's why he is who he is. He's obviously very passionate about what he wants to bring to this country, and he made his choice. And of course, to say that I feel sorry for him is not to say anything, because we see what the government does to him. They just want to take his life, I guess. And they don't want to kill him, but they want to punish him so badly that he will. They just want to break his spirit. So yeah, it's very difficult to really comment on his decision, because, like I said, not everybody would have done the same thing, but he is who he is, and it's only, I have such a high respect for him.
I decided to get back to the border a month after I've been in the camp to get an update on the situation. I've stopped at Jacumba Youth Center and saw stacks of water bottles. Something's changed. A few minutes later, Sam's pickup truck parked next to me.
So from late December till now, the
Yeah.
price for crossing, the cartels charge 10 times more.
10 times is what I'm hearing. And the people have no reason to lie to me, as far as I can tell.
Right.
And so it means it slowed down a lot in the numbers. Also, the Border Patrol has become far more efficient about moving people through, because just to give you an example, 2 months ago, a person I knew got, from arrest to release on the street was most of the people were about 72 hours. From getting on the bus to getting off, to being released or into ICE custody. Now it's 8 hours. So obviously they have sped up their process. Whatever the Border Patrol did, whatever their protocol used to be, it's not the same as it used to be. I mean, how and why and what changed, don't ask me. I have no idea. But you don't go from 72 hours of processing to 8 hours of processing without making some serious changes in your protocol, as far as I can tell.
Right. So things changed not only on the Mexican side of the border,
Yeah.
but also
On this side of the border, and their ability to process people very quickly. So we're still seeing a flow of 250, 300 people a day, generally. Today was an outlier. There was nobody there in the morning, but generally 250, 300 people a day, split between two camps. Yesterday, it was way more than that. It was more like 400 people. And yet they're being moved out very quickly. No one spent the night. In the last night, it was only, out of about 270 people who were in the camp at nightfall, 30 of them were left by daybreak the next day. That's only happened once in the last month.
is winter has anything to do with this?
One hopes that there's a humanitarian motivation behind it. I mean, but who knows?
No. Okay. So people still, especially singles, they still live by the wall in the desert.
Yeah, but not for
for a long time.
for not usually less than 4 or 5 hours. Now, but not always. Sometimes it's until late in the night, and something. There was a group, like I said, that was here for more than 24 hours the other day. But that was unusual over the last month.
So with such a fast processing time and raising price for crossing from the Mexican side, it feels like in a couple months, if it stays the same, you'll have like 100 people.
Who knows? I mean, I don't know. I mean, what's going to happen? But yeah, I mean, if $3,000 sounds like a lot, but it's not that much money. And if people know,
saving your life.
there you go. I mean, it's not that much money. So, there's a huge demand for it. As I said, the demographic of people over the last months has changed radically, in that you're not seeing the Colombianos and the people that came up on the, on buses and trucks and things like that. Mm-hmm. No, you're seeing the Colombians that flew into the airport in Tijuana.
Okay.
I mean, you can tell by looking at their shoes. That's all you got to do is look at the shoes, and you know immediately how long they've been, trekking.
Have you heard about recent events in Texas, Eagle Pass?
Oh, I've heard about it, but I mean, I have my own take on what's going on there.
What's going on there?
Well, It's very. I mean, I think it's just media bullshit. Again, I'm sorry, but it's just media bullshit. The actual, I mean, as far as I can ascertain, the actual reality of the matter is that the only section of barbed wire that that is in dispute between the Border Patrol and the Texas National Guard is a section that is well inside the American border. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
It's not close to the border. No, it's well inside the border. So that means anybody that crosses the border is in American territory already. And they can claim asylum in American territory under the law. So, yes, the Border Patrol does need access to those people. No question. They're on American territory. Now, places where the wall is actually on the border,
Mm-hmm.
I haven't heard any beef between the National Guard and the Border Patrol anywhere. They're in sync with each other. It's just this one little section there that they've made a showpiece out of.
If that deal would be made and they will make a deal to give more aid to Ukraine in exchange for harsh border policies, which means probably you will have to either stay in Mexico or claim asylum in the second country, whichever you travel through. What do you think, how it's going to affect?
They would have to change the basic law to not allow people to claim asylum on American soil. You understand what I'm saying?
Not allowed.
As long as the law says, right, that you can claim asylum if you are on American soil, which it very clearly says. That doesn't mean you'll get asylum, but you at least can start the due process for it. You understand? Mm-hmm. Now, all of the negotiations I have seen of any sort do not address that at all. Okay? Now, I am ambivalent. I'm not saying it should be one way or another, but as long as the law stands as the way that it is, regardless of how they tweak it this way or that way, anyone who enters the country is on American soil is going to be allowed to start the asylum process. No one that I've known, none of the details, none of the debates, none of anything has ever addressed that basic issue. I have a feeling that would be us withdrawing from some fairly significant international treaties and things like that in order to do that, which is probably why it's not discussed very often.
Are you saying that not allowing people to claim asylum on U.S. soil at all will fix the border crisis?
Oh, no. I mean, I don't. I mean, who knows? I mean, I don't know. I'm just saying within that particular realm of why people are crossing here and doing exactly what they're doing here, that would probably fix that. You understand? Mm-hmm. But the border crisis, are you kidding me? Come on. No. The pressure's on. You can change all the laws you want in the United States, okay? We can do whatever we want. Those people want to come here. They're going to try. And if you try to stop them, they'll figure out another way. You know it's true. I know it's true. So we can pretend that somehow our changing the laws in America is going to make some significant effect on the migrant flows. It will not.
Like the laws in United States can change, but the other side.
The pressure on the other side remains the same.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with United States laws, right?
It doesn't have anything to do with it. American laws.
Care less.
Yeah, they don't care. I mean, as long as they want to get here one way or another. If they have to get here one way, they'll do it. If they have to get here another way, they'll do it. I mean, remember the Mariella boat lift? Come on, we'll have people coming in here in paddle boards before you know it. I mean, it's if there's money in it, right? And at $4,000, $3,000 to go from Tijuana to a break in the wall, it's less than an hour drive away. Yeah, there's money in it.
I have to ask this, though maybe you won't see like an evident connection, but still. Speaking of rights, when someone steps up on U.S. soil, what's your take on birth rights? Like if you were born on U.S. soil, doesn't matter who you are, you.
Remember how unusual that is in the world. That America is very unusual that it has birthright citizenship. There are very few countries that do. I lived in another country most of my life that does not have, both my children were born there. They are not Indonesian citizens. I always wanted them to be, but they can't. So birthright citizenship in and of itself, I'm not certain how good or bad that is. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. It's something we'll be able to tell in a few generations, maybe.
Like how this would affect
Yeah, how's this going to affect
in
generations to come? I don't know. Who knows?
I've kept coming back to Jacumba once a month to track the situation in the camps. To my surprise, I was in the passenger seat on my next trip. Carolyn was born and raised in Arizona, but lived most of her life in Cali. I was helping to move her roommate when I mentioned that I'm making a documentary about the border. She said she went there with the sheriff decades ago. I want to see how things have changed, she said. Well, I needed a driver.
no one is here. You want to make a U-turn? Okay. Финалочка. В чем сила?
А?
В чем сила?
Ну, сила, наверное, все-таки в свободе, потому что, в правде уже достаточно избито. Это, я не говорю, что я с этим не согласен, но в свободе, потому что, мне кажется, свобода — это понятие такое, которое, оно такое многоликое, но каждый лик этого понятия настолько важен для человека. И когда человек свободен, он счастлив. А когда человек не свободен, что бы там ни было, он не будет счастлив.